wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is lecture 10. We are still talking about the consonants of English. If you remember, we have already started talking about fricatives, and we have taken the first pair of fricative sounds, which are f and v. Okay, today we are going to move on. We are taking, inshallah, the other pairs. We shall start with th and the. Th. This is th, and this is the. Okay, they are two fricative sounds produced when the tip of the tongue moves forward a little bit to be in touch with the upper front teeth. Okay, so in this case, if you remember, we have explained that in each pair of fricative sounds, we have a narrow opening formulated at a specific place. In the case of f and v, the narrow opening was between the lower lip and the upper front teeth. This time, for th and the narrow opening is between the tip of the tongue and the upper front teeth. These two sounds are called dental sounds. Dental sounds, because the teeth, more specifically the upper front teeth, are involved in the pronunciation of these sounds. Okay, you may refer to figure 13 for for a clearer view of the pronunciation of these two sounds. You are going to see that the lower lip is the tip of the tongue is moved forward and be in touch with the upper front teeth. Sometimes you feel that the tip of the tongue is between the upper and the lower front teeth. Something like that. Okay, so there is a narrow opening. This narrow opening is enough for the airflow to go out, but with causing friction. That's why they are called fricative sounds. There is no complete contact here between the upper front teeth and the tongue. Instead, we have a partial contact. So this is a case where the air can find its way out, but with friction. So th is a voiceless and strong sound. Since it is voiceless, it should be strong, while the is voiced and weak. Voiceless, th. Voiced, the. You can simply put your fingers on the side of your neck, on the larynx, and pronounce the sound th, th. You are going to feel actually no vibration in the vocal cords. With the, there is vibration, which means there is voice. Okay, you can feel the difference when you move from th to the. Definitely are going to feel that with th there is no vibration. With the there is. That's why th is voiceless, the is voiced. Okay, the narrow opening in dental sounds actually is made between the tongue tip and the upper front teeth, and here we have the friction. There is more friction in th than in the. Th in the. More friction in th, more breath than in the. Th, because it is strong, the preceding sound becomes weaker and shorter than usual. Remember that this rule will be applicable to all consonants at the end of words in final position. So they affect the preceding sound. While the, which is a weak sound, a weak consonant, the preceding sound becomes stronger and longer than usual. Okay? So with strong consonants in the end of words, preceding sounds will be shorter and weaker. Shorter and weaker than expected. While the, which is a voiced weak sound, causes the preceding sound to be stronger and longer than usual. Let's take an example. Here we have faith and bathe. Okay, faith and bathe. With th at the end of the word in final position, what will happen to the preceding vowel? The preceding vowel will be shorter and weaker. Okay, while with the, which is a voiced sound, in final position, the preceding sound will be longer and stronger. So what is the difference between A here and the diphthong A here is that this A is shorter and weaker than this A. Okay? Later on with practice, you may be able to realize this difference in your pronunciation. So don't forget, when the consonant is voiceless, strong, the preceding sound will be shorter and weaker. When the sound or the consonant is voiced and weak, the preceding sound will take its full space and be stronger and longer than usual. Now, both sounds are found in Arabic. If you remember with fa and va, the fa is found in Arabic while va is not found. That's why difficulty is expected in the pronunciation of va, while th and the both are found in Arabic. Okay, so and they are frequently used, and this maybe avoids or makes confusion not possible between them. We cannot confuse th with the. In other languages, this might be possible, but in Arabic, we don't have that big problem in the pronunciation of these two sounds, or we don't have that possibility of pronouncing the instead of the and the instead of the. We have different difficulties, but hopefully not in Iraqi Arabic, maybe in other accents of Arabic. Now, do we have these two consonants in all positions? Yes. Initially we have think, think, this. In the middle we have author and other. Author and other. In final position we have tooth and smooth. Okay? Smooth. So the conclusion is that both th and the are found in all positions, and they are frequent in English. Both th and the are oral sounds. And again, what do we mean by oral? We mean that in the pronunciation of these vowels, the soft palate is raised, the nasal cavity is closed, and the air goes out through the mouth only. That's why we call it an oral sound. And if you remember, we said that they are dental because the teeth, the upper front teeth, are involved in the pronunciation of these sounds. But the is voiced. This is the difference. The is voiced while the is voiceless. So even though both consonants are oral, both are dental, both are fricative, the is voiced, the is voiceless. This is the difference. Okay. Now we have another. Actually, as I said a minute ago, in some accents of Arabic, speakers encounter difficulties actually in the pronunciation of th and the. For example, in Levantine Arabic, يعني لهجة بلاد الشام, in Egyptian Arabic, sometimes they say tlati instead of thalatha. Sometimes they say tamir instead of thamir. Sometimes they change the sound into z. Okay? مثلا, I don't have examples now in my mind. Okay, so these consonants may pose difficulties not for Iraqi speakers. In Iraq, we don't have problems differentiating th and the and z and s, but in other accents of of Arabic, this problem is clear. Okay. Now we move to the other pair, sa and za. So remember, we have dealt with tha and the now, and we have dealt with fa and va in the previous lecture. Now it's time to deal with sa and za. Again, they are two fricative sounds produced when the tip and blade of the tongue are in partial contact, not complete, with the alveolar ridge. So these two sounds are called alveolar. Why? Because the tongue is raised to be in contact with the alveolar ridge. Where is the narrow opening in this case? The narrow opening is made between the tip of the tongue, the tip and blade of the tongue, and the alveolar ridge. Okay? While here, it was between the tip of the tongue and the upper front teeth. With fa and va, it was between the lips and the teeth. Okay, so each time, as I said, the narrow opening is made at a different place. Okay, so when the tip and blade of the tongue move to be in partial contact with the alveolar ridge, and there is a narrow opening, the air will go out with friction. Now, sa is voiceless and strong. Za is voiced and weak. Again, you can check by yourself. Put your fingers on the side of your neck. Say s. No vibration at all. With z, there is vibration. It means sa is voiceless, za is voiced. Again, you can feel the difference more clearly if you move from sa to za. S, s. Yeah, I'm sure you will feel the difference. Now, again, we have the same rule. Sa and za affect the preceding sound, and sa is strong, don't forget. That's why, what kind of effect we expect here? The sound, the preceding sound will be weaker and shorter. But with weak, which is weak, with za, which is weak, the preceding sound will be stronger and longer than usual. Okay, again, we have the same rule. Example, we have knees and knees. Which one of these is going to be longer and stronger? This E or this E? Definitely the one that is followed with Z, because Z is weak, the vowel will be longer and stronger. And here, the E is followed by Se, which is strong, so the E will be shorter and weaker than usual. It should be like knees and knees, knees. This one's supposed to be longer and stronger. Some learners mix between tha and sa and between the and za, as I told you, okay? But this is not in Iraqi Arabic, okay? Things get more complicated when these sounds follow one another in a word. When the tha and the come closely, they are adjacent or near to each other, they are difficult to be realized. When sa and za are close to tha and the in a word, also this is going to be difficult. Okay, now why do you expect this or these combinations or adjacent consonants are difficult to pronounce? You may think of this. Why a word like thirsty is sometimes difficult, safety, okay, they are somehow difficult to pronounce. Maybe you can think of an answer for this. And if you have come across this word before, tongue twisters. What is tongue twisters? Tongue twisters are actually a sequence of words that have similar consonants. When we say similar consonants, and maybe this, what I'm going to say now, responds to this question, no problem, because these sounds are actually share similar features. they are easily mixed. Either they have the same features or the same place of articulation, the same manner, same voicing. So whenever adjacent consonants are share similar features, they are most likely to be mispronounced for one another and difficult to pronounce. So an example like 6 thin scythial sticks. Look, se, ke, se, the, se, te. So these consonants, which are somehow in sequence in this phrase, cause difficulty. They are not easy to pronounce. It's just like the Arabic example. I don't know. It is difficult to pronounce. Hosh, Khalil, Hayat. I don't know. It is difficult. Something like lori wara lori. So they are difficult because the same consonants or similar consonants are repeated. That's why difficulty is expected. Now, do we have se and ze in English? In all positions, of course. They are very frequent. We have si, especially se, si, zu, mistake, fuzzy, bus, nose. Okay, so se can occur in all positions. Ze is the same, but somehow ze is not that frequent. Okay, especially in the beginning of words, while at the end of words, se and ze are very frequent. Can you think of a reason for that? Why se and ze are very frequent in final position? Think of an answer for this question. Next time, inshallah, we will discuss it. Now, the other pair of fricative sounds is sh and je. Sh and je. They are fricative sounds produced when the tip of the tongue is raised to be in partial contact with the back of the alveolar ridge, making a narrow opening for the air flow to go out with friction. So again, we have a narrow opening, but this time it's between the tip of the tongue and the back of the alveolar ridge, or more exactly, the tip of the tongue with the area behind, at the end of the alveolar ridge and the beginning of the hard palate. Okay, se is voiceless. Sorry, she is voiceless. It is a voiceless sound. You can put your fingers and feel shh. So it is strong, while you can feel it. Je is voiced. There is vibration. So since it is voiced, it's going to be weak. Both are oral. They are palatal or palato-alveolar. Why? Because the narrow opening is between the tip of the tongue and the beginning of the hard palate. That's why it's called palatal or palato-alveolar. The sound she is very frequent in English. Okay, it is very frequent in English, but the sound je is not. It's actually limited in terms of position, limited in terms of words that represent this sound. Okay, so initially we have she, but we don't have je in initial position. Keep this in mind. Medially we have both. We have mission and vision. Mission, vision. Finally we have wish and rouge. Rouge, beige, garage. These actually are few examples for je in final position, and most probably they are borrowed from French. They are of French origin, like rouge and garage. Okay, so which one of these sounds you think will pose difficulty to Arab and Iraqi learners of English? Think of that. I think that je is going to pose more difficulty, while she is not. You are going to tell me why next time. The last fricative sound is ha sound. It is a fricative sound produced when the air is partially stopped between the vocal cords, Thus it is called a glottal sound. صوت حنجري, let me say. The friction is not as audible as the one we have with other fricatives. The sound is made inside the glottis, and the friction is there again inside the glottis between the vocal cords. Ha is voiceless, and remember that with feather, feather, seza, shaja, we always have two consonants in pairs. One is voiceless and the other is voiced. In English, we have only a voiceless glottal sound. We don't have a voiced glottal sound. We have only ha, which has no counterpart that is voiced, no voiced counterpart. ماكو صوت يقابل الها glottal وفي نفس الوقت هو voiced. Okay? Actually, there are two mistakes usually made with regard to the pronunciation of ha. Sometimes it's left out, it's not pronounced, and this is dangerous. Why? Because there are many words that are distinguished by the absence or presence of ha sound. Ear and here. If you pronounce the sound ha here, we're going to understand that you mean here, huna. But if you leave out the sound, it's going to be like ear, which has the same pronunciation. In this case, confusion is expected. اللي يسمع will not know whether you mean here or ear. So please don't leave out the sound ha in such cases, because the meaning will be different, and a breakdown in the conversation will be expected. Okay? The other reason is that English speakers consider leaving the ha sound a mark of uncultivated speaker. So if you don't pronounce the ha sound, the listener will understand that you are not a cultivated speaker. You are not an educated one, maybe. Okay? So this is another reason why we should keep the ha. So we should keep the ha, because sometimes if we leave it out, the meaning will, the pronunciation will indicate a different word and a different meaning. The second one is that when you leave out the ha sound, the native speaker will think that you are an uncultivated person. There is another problem with ha sound, which is not that dangerous as the one we have discussed now, that is of deleting the ha. The other problem is that you make the ha too noisy, and this is also sounds unpleasant to native speakers, and native speakers will not be happy with your pronunciation if you make the ha sound like it's something near to the sound ha, the sound we have also in the glottis in Arabic, not in English. In English we don't have ha. Okay? So if you don't want to make it too noisy, push a little gasp of breath, not too much breath. If you push too much breath, the ha sound will be too noisy. So keep in mind not to push much breath or too much breath, more than required. Ha sound can be found initially, hand, head, high, medially, and we have behind, but not found in final position. Not found in final position. Okay? So for ha sound, we may have it initially, medially, but not finally. Now, we already have a ha sound in Arabic, so no problems are expected to happen except for the too noisy pronunciation. As I said, if we make the ha too noisy, it's going to be like etc. Okay? Thank you very much for listening. See